Very important time right now because it's really going to be glitches. Okay, so you're going to see the fallen matrix glitching, and it's like a bit of a window of like the true blueprint to come through, and then it's going to zap out. Things are feeling a little bit strange, a little bit weird energetically, and I was hoping to come in and support by decoding it and translating it. But basically what I saw is that the entire grid, but on an earthly scale, the entire realm is being recoded, rewritten. So as if there's like a platform or even like a software that is dying, and there's a new software that's upgrading. But at the same time, there's kind of a battle or a fight of like fighting the virus, or even seeing like two things, right? As if seeing the viruses that were stopping the system from operating, so kind of the infiltrations, but also from another end is like the upgrading of the software in the system is allowing to see the bugs or the things that were not working well, or the outdated stuff that need a bit of like a fixing. So that is happening on a collective scale, and definitely it feels like it's rippling out into our own personal life as well. But in what sense? Because it can feel like things are not really solid, or things are not really like strict or fixated, or there's a clear timeline or a clear direction, or even, yeah, it's like fixed, like, okay, look, this is what's going on and we're moving there. It feels like things are a little bit wavy right now. So how that might feel like is like in your specific timeline, you might feel that there's a bit of instability in terms of directions, or things where you feel like decisions or even responses and opportunities that are coming in, it's as if like it's happening, but then it's not happening, or then it's happening simultaneously. So nothing is fixed at the moment. Things are malleable, things are morphing. But it's interesting because things feel more heightened in terms of like being able to see through the grid, to be able to see through the code. And now what happens when that happens is that it can create a little bit of that feeling of not dissociation from reality, actually, because there can be such a sort of grounding in the game, or such a grounding in the avatar, that you literally know, like, you're embracing more and more this reality, that it's truly like in its codes, it's encoded, and you're not much of the coder, but you're able to see through the codes. And you play a little bit of role of like being the coder. In what sense? In your body, because you have the capacity to shift and morph things through your body. So your body is truly like a vehicle, it's a tool that allows you to, yeah, shift those codes in your life through mastering your mind-body matrix, and through consciously intending to open up your receiver and your channel to the spirit. So this is where you really, your coding abilities come, right? That super heightened awareness. So it can feel a little bit like out of body experience, or a little bit like, as I said, dissociated, but it's not really dissociated because there's a lot of grounding, but that the codes are revealing, and the grid is like heightening even more and more, and you're able to feel and perceive or sense that shift in that software that's upgrading in your external reality, or even in your own internal reality. If it feels disembodying for you, if it feels like it's a bit too much, if it feels like it's overwhelming, if it feels like it's dissociating, Because really, in reality, is you're not embracing the truth of what it is. Because the moment that you're embracing the avatar consciousness, you're embracing the role that you have of the seer and the sensor and the feeler, whatever you want to call it, but literally like, you know, the pioneer of this path, the warrior of God. And you're embracing what you're seeing, what you're experiencing, as rare and as strange as it can be. There's a sense of grounding. Now, do you know what to do with it? Maybe not necessarily, and this is where, you know, it's a process, it's a journey. But if you truly embrace it, then you're very grounded in that platform, in that reality, in that existence, the holographic existence, right? Because you're able to see and feel the hologram. And so now that this is being heightened, I was a bit curious, like asking Spirit, like, okay, why do we see it? Because, okay, like, you know, there's so many things happening as energetic around us that our own eyes cannot see. But sometimes we see things, so why do we see them? And does there have to be a reason? Maybe not necessarily, just the fact that this is your role, that you've expanded that awareness, you've expanded that capacity and that gift to see through those realms. Sometimes you want to see things because maybe there's much for you to shift. But what I'm realizing right now is that there's not much to shift as much as like that internal coding and recoding of your own, you know, the heightening of awareness. But it's more of an observation, that you're really observing and seeing things. Things are revealing. So now that is really interesting, right? Because why is the grid revealing itself? That means that there's, as I said, a fight or a battle, as if like the grid or the illusion, the amnesia, the layer on top of the layer on top of the truth was so fortified through the, you know, the artificial intelligence grid, right, through the simulation, and it's kind of losing its grip. So people that are in tune and are able to connect to that, to the true grid, to the divine grid, are going to see the collapse of that. So they're going to be a witness. Now again, as I'm saying, seer, it doesn't necessarily have to be that it's through your visual, like you're truly seeing, like in my case right now, like, you know, you're truly able to see the codes and all of that through your own, you know, eyes. It could be that it's a sense, it's an experience, it's a really an experiment, that you're able to sense that dissolving, that dissolution of something, and the other thing is revealing, because the true layer is finally revealing. So that's why I said that there's this part of you that can be, is that if you embrace it, you might notice that it's really getting very empowering, and it might be very isolating from the rest of the world, because they're like, what the hell are you talking about? But the more that you're embracing that, the gatekeeper, you know, the grid keeper that you are, the coder, the proactive participant in the bigger play, right? So the encoder, you're able to encode your own, you finally take sovereignty and take power over your own encoding skills. So you've owned your role, right? You've owned who you are, your play in this bigger play. But really, ultimately what it is that you are pure conduit to source. You are in full devotion and service to true source of all creation, God source of all creation, to spirit. That is all that is. And you allow, by devoting yourself to that, you allow anything that is of that outdated code that was plugged into these egoistic constructs to dissolve, because they're no longer have that much power, because you understand that if you're attaching to those egoistic constructs within you, the persona, the personality, that construct, and even those pains and those painful pockets, you are entertaining a threat, you are entertaining a code, you are feeding a code that is really outdated, that is in the facade, that is in the fallen and artificial matrix. So, but that's where the wobbling is, right? Because you're still able to feel those things, but this is where you're also, through the seeing of the collapse and the restructuring and the reframing of the new grid, that is truly happening on a collective scale behind the doors, in the background of the people that are more in power on a physical scale. But this is where also I'm going to talk about in the spiritual scale. You have your own role here, right? So this is where your role is, of like truly devoting over and over again, believing in the power of intention and prayer, that you are in full devotion to spirit. And whenever there is those ickiness or those stuckness of energies from the outdated construct or the fallen construct to the new, is to know, and that's what we're going to speak about, is that there's a little bit of being messed with, because you have the power to pull those threads out just by calling upon spirit, just by being in that full prayer mode and that intention with spirit. Allowing, it's really always comes down to allowing, opening up to allow spirit to guide, because it's higher codes, it's something that has not been tapped to before. So you want to open up the one window, you want to open up that strengthen that conduit that you have with source and with spirit. What it comes down to is that as much as you're having your strength and your power in the process of understanding that it's a process of upgrading of the software, of the grid, and you are playing that gatekeeper and that grid keeper in that sense, and you're holding the power of your own gates. It's no longer as much dissociating, right? And as that's why also it's the purpose of these videos that I make. It's to bring that remembrance, to bring that support, to bring that decoding, so that like, oh, okay, yep, that's what's going on. We're gonna, let's do it. Let's dive in. Let's hold it with much more strength. Nothing's wrong. Nothing's going wrong. Nothing's no. This is multidimensional existence. This is quantum existence, and it's the process, and we're doing it. So this is one aspect of it. Now, the second aspect of it that's gonna happen as you experience the solution and the restructuring of the grid is that you're gonna be met with a resistance. Because I think I've spoken about this maybe in a previous video, where I spoke about like kind of the analogy of, we were speaking of the virus, is that what I know is that there's a code. It's like, because everything's coding, right? Is that it's all artificial mechanisms. So when you start embodying or opening up or expanding or receiving higher light quotients, so the more that you're unplugging, really seeing it like that wrap. So you're unwrapping yourself. Even like a caterpillar, you're unwrapping yourself from the cocoon, chrysalis, and then all of a sudden you're opening up to you, right? The avatar, the embodiment, that like, and the remembrance. Oh, right, you've fallen into this avatar, and these are the keys and the things that you have to do, which I'm going to speak into as well a little bit later, to harness and fully embody, right? Embody, and that you're here to embody that higher light cushion, and you're here to embody that awareness. You're here to embody more and more of that God spark. Because that's the time. But you remember, you know what's the real reason for that. Is that what can happen is that there's an anti-code of specific agents that would just see that there's an expansion or something that you're unwrapping yourself from, and they're just going to try to like zzz and come in and stop that process. How do they stop that process, right? It's an infiltration, so it's going to infiltrate in the pockets that they have capacity to get to you through, right? So your pains, your triggers, your thought processes. I've spoken about this for a while this last month, because there's been a lot of infiltrations. But what happens here is that there are, just like you are the gatekeepers of the divine grid, there are gatekeepers of that fallen grid, of that prison grid, of that fallen matrix, the amnesia, the illusion, the layer over the layer, the overlap. And what they're going to do is that this is their job, just like it's your job, right? They're going to, you might start feeling them or sensing them or seeing them more. That resistance is going to come up. Now, why it's such a gift right now is because they want to frighten you. So the thing is that the more that you get to those gates of the prison, you get to those gates that you're just about to like unwrap yourself from. And again, this is not a one thing. So a lot of people think, oh, have achieved the gate, this is my exit. What I realize is that because it's a full code, so it's like one code at a time, so it's one layer at a time. As if there's many like grids on top of grids, or like ceilings on top of ceilings. But the moment that you get somewhere, you're so close to like recoding that and getting out of that fallen matrix into the divine matrix, into the true and real matrix, the real grid. What goes on there is that you're gonna see more, because you have lifted the veil, right? You have lifted those the veil, those lenses that were keeping you there. So when you're going to open that, you're going to get there to the gate and you're going to take a sneak peek, you're going to start seeing things. And that's where a lot of people freak out. So if you're hearing this and you're freaking out, that the more that you're getting closer to that, the more you start noticing that there's this huge resistance and you want to get out or you want to release. I really want you to know that it's not conscious, it's an automatic code. It's like it's a dormant code. It's like literally a strategy. It's like a mechanism that is plugged into that avatar that just stops you, you know, and you just find yourself that you're unconsciously scared or terrified or whatever, or you just, you know, find yourself that you pull back. This is all the straight strategy that is dormant. It's an unconscious strategy. And so when you have that awareness, as I said, because you're the gatekeeper, so just knowing that, you can make the choice of like, actually you're not really scared if you think about it. It's just making you want to be scared. It's frightening you. And this is where actually from what I have explored and seen and realized, is that this is where actually the role of the Jesters and the Tricksters are. And so they pop up most of the time when there's a barrier. I think they're the barrier holders. Okay, there's some of those gatekeepers. What do they actually do is that each person is very different, because each one has their own personality structure and their own inner core and what gets to them. But they usually like mock, right? Take the piss out of you, or they criticize you, right? So just imagine that. So this is what they're really doing in the spirit realm, okay, in the astral realm. But how does that manifest internally? So it could be through inner voices. That is the one that is criticizing yourself, that is mocking yourself, shaming yourself, taking the piss out of yourself, right? Even a lot of those like kind of those humors, but they're kind of toxic humor, because it's like, oh, it's just a joke, but it's not really a joke. It's like trying to break something, destroy, because they're destroyers in nature as well. So that's one aspect of it. Other aspect could be that it's very terrifying. So a lot of people, you know, just think about it. For me, when we were children, it's like, it's very terrifying in nature, and it brings terror, but yet is like you cannot understand it, why it's a visceral terror. So they can also bring out and control through fear, right? Or control, as I said, through that inner voice that can stop you, like, you know, oh really, who do you think you are? Or really mocking your personality, breaking you down, taking you down. And this is really their work. So what happens is that they want you, but they're very good, like because they're hiding, right? We don't really see them through our own, you know, 3D eyes. This is what they do in the energy field. And then they come into the physical, and it's most of the time a lock. So you find yourself that, as I said, it's a resistance, it's a wall. And that's why I said it's like a wall of the software, okay? So you've reached a wall in the operating system, in the matrix, because you're just about to recode, and then they get sent out literally like agents. And if you are able to see them, so like I see them in the energy field, that's what they manifest like. So they are doing that. They're holding the gates for you not to exit or recode, so that you can stay in that operation model, in that outdated software. In the physical, in the emotional, they are triggering that. They come in through voices that want to... It's actually really tricky, because it's really like your own inner voice, and it gives you all the reasons. It gives you all the excuses to why you want to stop, why you want to go back, why you don't want to pierce through, why you don't want to keep going and moving forward with that recoding process. It depends on the setting. It depends on the code that you're wanting to alchemize and recode. And this is where they're going to touch you in. But you find yourself that you're really wanting to give up. You're just like, I'm done. Or you find yourself that you're just paralyzed. You just don't know why. So either you run away, or you just, get paralyzed and not move forward. And you might find that you get tired or maybe drained, even physically, and you don't have the energy to move forward. This is literally all their work in the field. Truly like a parasite. It's truly like a parasitic code. Parasitic virus in the field, in the grid. So the only thing that is to happen there is that awareness of like, yes, that's the mechanism that is going on. And then just to call upon spirit, because the moment you call upon spirit, you have literally moved that frame. Or when their frame is like, because they're also, it's literally like a virus, because it's like you're just sitting there and like you're just seeing what is, and it's all clear, and then they imprint themselves on you, and they've appeared into your field, into your reality. As I said, like I'm talking about the visual existence and reality that is going on in the energy field, but I explained in the physical, so that's what could happen. You just find that there's, boom, out of nowhere, spontaneously something that just overwhelmed you, and just calling upon spirit, and you might notice that maybe in 1 second it will just move away like characters. It won't make sense anymore. Or it might be that it starts dissolving little by little. The more that you fortify your conduit with spirit, the more that you place the intention and the prayer of being led towards what is truly the pathway, what is truly that thread, that alleyway, that tube, okay, that you're supposed to go through, that channel, rather than go down into that loop again. Because this is also what their Tricksters and Jesters are really good with, right? It's like the agents of loops. They make things loop, because they're a looping mechanism, and they remind you, because also what I've seen is that they loop a lot, right? So it's like a broken record, because they're not natural, they're not like organic, they're not necessarily like, they're not spiritual beings, okay? They don't have that divine essence. So it's just like a broken code that's just looping. And it's been I would love to do a video specifically about them another time, because they've been so embedded into our psyche, into our consciousness from a very, very, very young age. And it's literally there, like it's just been so imprinted, and also as part of our history. And it's been also manipulated to kind of, see it as entertainment, see it as being open to it, open our field up to it, to embrace it, when actually it has a lot of those demonic and the fallen codes within it. It's truly exactly like a trickster. It wants to trick you into believing something, right? It wants it to trick you into believing your own ideologies, your own belief systems, your own ego constructs. It wants to trick you into believing that what you're seeing is what is, so making you doubt your own senses of reality. So it's all literally like a joke, right? It's a joke. and to deviate the process, so that you deviate your path, so you stay looping in that code that is outdated, rather than going through and receiving and embracing the gatekeeper that you are, and getting out. But this is all very powerful, because if we were to speak into these things, which I feel is the reason why I haven't spoken into them years ago, when I have met them, or, well, one aspect of it is because my personal journey, I was really hesitant to fully own and claim that aspect of myself and that aspect of reality. I was really like being gaslit by a lot of spiritual concepts and spiritual communities, and gaslit myself in return. So that was one part of it. But if I see it like even as a timeline, is because it could be really frightening in nature, because they had a very strong grip on reality. And now this is dissolving, and you're going to see it's a very important time right now, because it's really going to be glitches. Okay, so you're going to see the fallen matrix glitching, and it's like a bit of a window of like the true blueprint to come through, and then it's going to zap out, because it's not shutting down fully yet. So that's why we're able to like speak into them right now. So when you're confronting these things, no, actually it's a great time. As much as it feels freaky, but actually it's a great time, because you're closer. You are seeing through what is really, really going on. So if you're experiencing this, you are experiencing that upgrade. You are experiencing that software. And now, it's kind of sad to say, because then I asked, like, what about the people that are not seeing? Is everybody gonna see that? You know, what is going on in the energetic war, in the spirit war? What is gonna happen to the rest of the people? And I kind of saw like this, and that felt like as if it's like a wave that's taking them in, and that's where I felt a bit like it was heavy, because it feels like there's gonna be a washing of that, as if like they're gonna be washed, like they're gonna go with that outdated matrix as well, like deeper into it. So I don't know, I'm not sure if I was really happy to hear that. You might not be happy to hear that either, because I usually don't like that. It's like I always want to feel like, no, there's like a glimpse or a hope, but yet at the same time you can see it, that the program is like the program is really like hard coding. So you can see that if people are not doing the work, the program is just hard coding even more in them, and you can notice more and more of their programming playing out rather than the light of awareness. So you can see that split. And as much as I don't like this, but it just is what is. You know, if we take out that human aspect of attachment and we just see it for what it is, it just makes sense in terms of coding, in terms of systems, in terms of grids, and what we're plugged into and what we're wanting to unplug from. So this is such an amazing time of wow, because it's literally like an opening, it's a cutting, it's a piercing through the glitch. And that's actually fascinating, because it reminded me, yesterday I went on a sacred walk. It was just so powerful, and I kept seeing in top of the mountains, because that's where I was walking, kept seeing in the clouds like portals, like as if there were just all those clouds, and there was always this circle in the middle, but it was just one, and there was, everything was moving, but yeah, there was a lock, like as if that circle wasn't closing or opening. It was just everything around it was moving. And I kept seeing it several times. I kept seeing the whole clouds and the sky getting dark, but yet there was this portal. It's like, it feels like we're getting through, we're like, it's a closing of a chapter and we're stepping into the other side. But for real right now, it feels like a really like a like a visceral experience, like an embodied experience where we're stepping through. And that made sense now that I broke it down. It's like literally the grid that is being rewritten and being recoded in that sense. So it's a great time of like riding that wave, a great time of like connecting deeper to spirit, doing a lot of that owning, embodying, really spirit work, light work. And for that, I feel actually, if you haven't heard that yet, but I have my next vision quest happening in less than a month, in like maybe 2 weeks in Peru. So if you feel called to come down here, because this is gonna be like huge and deep soul work and spirit work. So I recommend you check it out on my website.